This is the Fantasy Football Unlimited podcast with your host, Kevin Murray.
Welcome to the Fantasy Football Unlimited podcast. On this episode, I am thrilled to discuss week one of the 2025 fantasy football season with a very, very special guest. She is a senior fantasy analyst at Matthew Berry's Fantasy Life and my favorite Seattle sports fan in the entire fantasy sports industry. It's my pleasure to welcome back to the show, Kendall Valenzuela. Hello, my friend.
Hello. Oh my gosh. It's so good to talk to you. You told me before the show, you're like, when do we have to get out of here? And I'm like, I don't know. You and I could talk for hours and hours, just like not only about fantasy football, but then about, the Mariners, the Seahawks. So I'm so excited to be back here with you and breaking it all down.
I love it. Yes, obviously we could go deep into some Seattle Mariners baseball. It's just one of those. It's the time of year. Hopefully things work out. Let's see.
Let's hope.
We're also coming off of a disappointing Seahawks loss. That was one of those games where you just kind of have to win. I don't know how you lose that, but it is what it is.
And then everyone's injured. Like Kittle goes on IR, Purdy's hurt, and you're like, they all this was happening in this game, and you still couldn't win.
Exactly.
It literally just blows my mind.
Exactly. Anyway. Like, how do you lose it versus a team that's depleted like that?
Exactly.
But it is what it is. Obviously, we're gonna talk about the wild week one of the fantasy season. We're also gonna dive into the Stacked Fantasy Football League that you're a part of. For those unfamiliar with Stacked, this is going to be one of the most competitive and innovative fantasy leagues on the planet. It's bringing together some of the biggest names in the industry, raising $10,000 for charity. Scott Fish, the legend behind the Scott Fish Bowl, serves as commissioner. He's keeping things running smoothly. I'll be an on-field reporter doing interviews with league managers each week, including Kendall right here. Colin McNamee is going to be bringing the story to life with entertaining write-ups and recaps. You got to follow this league. It's stacked. Absolutely loaded. You got Dave Richard, Chris Harris, Andy Behrens, John Daigle, Ben Gretsch, Sigmund Bloom, Justin Boone, Andrew Cooper, David Kitchen, Greg Branos, Jake Seeley, and Kendall Valenzuela. What a league. So as for week one, what are you surprised with? What surprised you the most about what happened this last weekend?
That all our fantasy teams were bad. I just maybe I'm just going to group us all together sarcastically, of course, and a little bit dramatically. But I think, week one is always weird and wonky, right? You always know that maybe some teams are going to start off slow. Guys that we are obviously going to put in our starting lineups just don't perform. And so you had a lot of those guys, Nico Collins, AJ Brown, both of the Bengals receivers. There were some of the rookie running backs that we were expecting big things from and still are at the beginning, don't show up. And so I think, that was one of the surprising things, or things that we just hoped wouldn't happen, but it did again. I think Daniel Jones was probably my biggest surprise. I wasn't expecting, I was hoping that Daniel Jones could revive his career, with this new team, with this new look offense, and just it being probably one of the best teams that he's played with in his career. But I just didn't expect it to the extent that we got last week. And it's not to say that is going to continue week in and week out, because I do think there's going to be highs and lows with him. But I think that was probably the biggest shock for me week one, was just that performance that he was able to give.
Yeah, it's great. It's great for Tyler Warren. I got Tyler Warren everywhere, so I'm thrilled with it. It's nice to see. It's kind of efficient. I mean, as efficient as it gets. You don't get more efficient than that offense this last weekend. So cool to see. Any other players that you're taking away week one from, and that you're excited about? Anybody that you're nervous about?
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited about Emeka Egbuka. The Emeka Egbuka bags are heavy over here. Just not with me. I know Fantasy Life. We loved him over there when Dwayne did the rookie supermodel. It was obvious how talented he was. And it's so funny now that week one's here, Kevin, and we saw, some of these rookies go to maybe not the best landing spots during the draft. And then all of a sudden we come into week one and we're saying, wow, a lot of these guys could have pretty good and significant roles right off of the start. And so I think Emeka Egbuka coming out, do we expect 2 touchdowns every week? No, but we don't have Chris Godwin there for at least a few more weeks. And so I think he was an exciting one that I'm really excited to just continue to watch him. I think it was interesting, some of the guys, again, I mentioned some of the guys that kind of didn't perform well, but I'm curious how people are going to start looking at the Dolphins, because they were comedically bad. It was awful. You almost just had to sit back and laugh and be like, there's no way they can be this bad. And I think, they said after the game, well, it can't get worse. And I fear that it could get worse or just continue to stay as bad as it was. But we need better quarterback play from Tua Tagovailoa, and you just hope that Tyreek Hill, who was still going in the 3rd round of drafts, is able to pay off his ADP, and same with Jalen Waddle. But those were the two. Oh man, the Dolphins are bad. That was my big takeaway there.
I love it. No, it's totally true. I have Ollie
Right?
Gordon in a lot of places, just hoping that there's a role there. But yeah, that was rough to see.
Horrible.
Obviously, when it comes to running backs, the Seattle backfield definitely shook some things up. Surprised to some, not to others. But how do you break down what happened with Charbonnet and Walker this last weekend?
Yeah, so I ended up, and it wasn't necessarily how I intended it, but I didn't take as much Kenneth Walker this season, and I ended up with more Zach Charbonnet than I did Walker. And I just said to myself, hey, we know Kenneth Walker's injury history. Not that I think that should sway how you draft necessarily. He missed 6 games. He's always missed a couple of games since he came into the league. But I was just a little bit nervous about maybe this team wants to be able to keep Kenneth Walker healthy the whole season. And if they do that, what is the split going to look like? What's the usage going to look like? Are they going to maybe try and split this a little bit more so he does stay healthy the whole season? And I think week 1, that's kind of what we got. And it's not a good thing for either side, right? For fantasy football purposes, you weren't necessarily happy with it. Charbonnet handled 59% of the snaps versus 41% of the snaps for Walker. And then you look at the full splits, Charbonnet had 11 attempts and then 0 targets. And then Walker had 10 attempts, 3 targets. And so it's one of these backfields where you say, okay, if this continues to happen and break this way, they're not necessarily great fantasy starters for either of them, right? And I think the one you're worried about the most is Walker, based on his price and his ADP preseason. He was expensive. He was someone that maybe started falling down draft boards in the last couple of weeks, but from where you bought him, you should be a little bit worried about it. And so I think, Charbonnet upgrades to an RB3 for me, and then Kenneth Walker downgrades to an RB3, but you look around and you say, okay, 10 fantasy points for Charbonnet in week 1, like around, I think it was 5 or 6 for Kenneth Walker. It's just not something that you want to put in your starting lineups week in and week out. So you might not have better options. And that's always a fallback that I say, but it's just one of those splits where it's just gross. You don't want to see that for fantasy football.
No, you definitely don't. It might be Charbonnet at the end of the year that they want to keep healthy, because he looks obviously like the more dynamic player right now. We'll see. We don't know what, with Walker, if the ankle's an issue right now.
I think he was coming in. I think he was coming in a little bit hurt still. Like we knew he was hurt during training camp and stuff. And so I think genuinely, I think that he was a little bit still banged up coming into week 1.
For sure. Now, what's your message to fantasy enthusiasts out there that freak out? I mean, week 1 is notorious for people just losing their minds. Everything is you throw out everything that you spent your time on in the off season because you think this is how it is. What's your biggest message to people that are losing their minds out there? Biggest takeaways moving forward?
Don't freak out. Just take a deep breath, maybe go to a hot yoga class. I don't know what you do to like de-stress, but do whatever you do and come back. We overreact on Mondays on SiriusXM. It's our overreaction Mondays with myself and Adam Ronis on Fantasy Life. You can call us in. You can air out everything that you want to say about your bad team, but then we move forward. So week 1 is just weird. Week 1 is just weird, and it's always going to be that way. We always have random highs from weird guys, random players, and then we have lows from guys that we expect to, start hot right out of the gate. So I think for me, it's just that you can panic, but don't panic sell, don't panic buy, right? If you're trying to sell players right now that are coming off a low, you're not going to get the value that you deserve for that player. So hold on to him. We did get a glimpse of utilization, everything from week 1. And there are obvious answers to some of the big questions that we had. What's, Travis Etienne in that backfield going to look like? What's Travis Hunter's usage going to look like? We had a ton of question marks coming into the season, but let's do another week. Let's look at what week 2 brings. And I think if you're panicking, go to the waiver wire. There's always ways around things because it's still just week 1. These guys, like the Bengals receivers, we don't have to worry about necessarily. Like there are guys that are going to step up and get into their own. It's just week 1. It's just what comes with the territory.
There you go. Well, yeah, seek fantasy counseling, right?
literally.
Find some analysts that kind of, breathe some hope into you for sure.
Exactly.
Now, obviously, as for the stacked league, this is something we're talking about here.
Yeah.
A lot of people are tuned in. A lot of people are aware of this
I love
league.
that.
A lot of huge names in this space competing for charity, right? It's pretty amazing. Like, you get $10,000 on the line, 5 going to Fantasy Cares, 5 going to the league champions charity of choice, which is great. So what made you want to compete in this league?
Oh my gosh, I was just so happy to even get an invite, to be totally honest, because you talk about a stacked league and you look through the people playing and you're like, oh yeah, this is stacked. Actually, these are the best of the best in this industry. So to be totally honest, I was just excited to get the invite and just be able to play against some of the sharpest minds in fantasy football. So it was a no-brainer. It was a no-brainer for me. And then you add on just the charities and everything that we do throughout the season that's going to help at the end, and it just made me excited. So I'm just happy to be here, to be honest.
I love it. Now, week 1 was exciting, from watching from the outside. You had a tight matchup with Jake Seeley going into Monday Night Football. The projections had you essentially at the exact same total. Like, it was spot on. Monday night hits. He needs Jefferson and DeAndre Swift to come through. They don't, and you pull out the W. How'd you feel?
Thank goodness, too. Oh, I was worried. I thought I was losing that matchup like 10 out of 10 times. So sorry, Jake, but I get to take this one 1-0 in the stacked league, which thank goodness, because what's funny is that just when you really look at players that you like in the offseason, you end up having a lot of exposure to them. So, sometimes it just doesn't work out. Hand up, last season I had a lot of Marvin Harrison Jr. I thought Kyler Murray was going to bounce back. So you look through your teams and you're like, yikes, I have a lot of these players on my team. So I was excited for at least this stacked team because of how I built it and the receivers that I went for, that even if they put up a little bit of dud games, I was just able to come out with a win. That's all we want in week 1.
Yeah, you drafted 3 wide receivers to start, obviously going with kind of a shallow bench when it comes to the running backs, putting a lot of stock into Harvey and Judkins as maybe the guys that down the stretch will solidify that backfield. But obviously you led with a few studs at a wide receiver. You got Puka, you got London, you got Higgins. Is that a normal build for you, or is this a little different?
Oh man, it wasn't this year. I do usually. Last season I'm a 0 RB kind of drafter. I just say, "Hey, let me get some of these receivers depending on also just the structure of the team too. If it's 3 wide receivers, 2 flex, I play in a lot of leagues like that where I just know I got to get a lot of receivers while I can, because the tier drop off in talent is it comes so quickly and it's steep. I mean, you look around and you're like, yuck. I have, in one league I've got, Rashid Shaheed, or in this one too, like Rashid Shaheed. And I'm like, woof, that's a little bit tough to be flexing him. But this year, especially because of the running back talent that we had coming in from rookies and just the running back usage that we saw last season, I actually started anchoring my team more. You get an elite running back, the hero RB strategy, get an elite running back off the top, and then make sure to just go back to wide receivers as quickly and often as you can. Maybe sneak in a good tight end over there or a good quarterback. And so this was actually one of those drafts where it's with stacked people, and they when you're in those industry drafts, they always throw you through a loop. You never really know what to expect too much. And so in this one, I just said, listen, I really liked, at the time we didn't know about Puka's injury yet, so that was a little bit tough learning it. Like Puka was a little bit of a weird one with Matthew Stafford, but Drake London, T. Higgins, I just decided to go there with them and then come back around with some hopefully better receivers. Chuba Hubbard had question marks at the time, and I was like, okay, I'll stack him with a little RJ Harvey, who just a little bit nervous about RJ Harvey right now. But then at the end, Quinshon Judkins is the interesting one, because I was on the clock and I had about like 3 minutes left. And that's when we got the Quinshon Judkins news that it looked like he, wasn't going to be necessarily suspended yet. And that the charges, and everything were going to be dropped, and that he had potential to play for the 2025 season. So I just said, let me take a flyer on him. It was my second to last pick, and that's kind of how I ended up with him. And he's on my bench right now too.
Yeah, and obviously in a league like this, you got to swing for the fences, right? Yeah. No one's going to remember second place, right? So you swing for the fences, and that's the kind of guy that down the stretch could be huge for a fantasy squad. Yeah. You mentioned, your wide receivers, obviously huge ones in at the top. You did have Shaheed, shout out Cooter Doodle in the flex spot. But you hit the waiver wire. You snagged.
Oh, did I?
Yeah, Quinn Johnston for $26. You outbid 6 other manager. 6 other managers went for him. So
I know.
What do you see in Quentin? What do you think? What do you project going forward?
I wanted to get Quentin Johnston because of the potential injury to Drake London, because of, Puka, not that Puka has an injury, but just the Matthew Stafford stuff. I didn't like who I had. I think I dropped Torrey Horton for him, I believe is the player that I dropped. And so I love Torrey Horton long-term. Like, I do think that he's someone that I probably, talk about on my waiver wire article at fantasylife.com in a few weeks, because someone needs to step up, in that Seahawks offense besides JS. But I just didn't like the depth that I had at wide receiver. And when you go, everyone watching this, everyone listening kind of knows that when you are drafting, you're going to have what you think is home runs at specific positions, but one is always just going to feel a little bit off. And so for my depth, knowing now that Quinshon Judkins could, potentially as early as this week play, and then I also have, Brian Robinson, Javonte Williams actually had a better start than I was expecting him to have for week 1 with the Cowboys. So I felt pretty good with my running backs on the bench. Rico Dowdle is another one that I have too. But Quinn Johnston, for what we saw, like you said, I want to swing for the fences there. So I knew Torrey Horton wasn't going to be someone that could give me immediate fantasy production yet. And so I think I bid $26. It came out to be a little bit too pricey, but that's just how aggressive I wanted to be. I just wanted to make sure I think he was out there. I did try and put a bid in. If I didn't get him, was going to go for Harold Fannin, but just someone that if Quentin Johnston really has put it together this year, if they continue to throw as much as they do, like we saw for the Chargers on Friday night, I'm like, okay, kind of want a piece of it.
Love it. I am a little disappointed. I saw the Seahawks defense went for 0, and you didn't bid for them. So.
I know. Totally forgot. I was too focused on QJ. It was crazy.
Hey, you got your man. You got your man. You brought up Javonte Williams. How did you feel? When a guy like that goes off on the bench, it's week 1. You don't expect it. There's no place for him on your lineup, so you can't regret it. But how does it hit you as a fantasy manager?
No, I do regret it. Points? But it's like, what do we know? We know nothing. At the end of the day, it's fantasy football. Who knows anything about anything? But yeah, Javonte, what the hell? It's always the worst to see guys like that. And like you said, there was no chance. Chuba Hubbard, RJ Harvey, I guess I could have put him into the flex. But again, Rashid Shaheed, I was just like, I'm projected for more points. I'll just go that way. And so it sucks. And everyone has some of those days. He wasn't the only one that I had on my bench. And like in this league he was. But, you had people leaving Emeka Egbuka on their benches for week 1 just to wait and see how it looks. Ja'Cory Crosby-Merritt maybe. So you just live and you learn, and you go and make sure you're looking at projections and everything. We've got great projections at fantasylife.com, waiver wire tool as well, and just start sit. So I'm not going to make the same mistake again. We'll see what the matchup looks like for week 2.
I love it. So looking at your roster, like what key players are you most optimistic for, and which ones are most nervous about?
I need Bo Nix to play better. I actually didn't get him. He was in that kind of range for quarterbacks where I just wasn't picking up a lot of Kyler Murray. I wasn't picking up a lot of Baker Mayfield, Patrick Mahomes, Bo Nix, that range of quarterbacks where the elite guys are gone. The 5 elite guys are gone. There's these guys here that still cost kind of a little bit of a pretty penny before getting into the Drake Mays, the JJ McCarthy's, the Justin Fieldses of the world. So I need Bo Nix straight up to do better. And it's really nerve-wracking, having a quarterback like that who, people talked about maybe a sophomore slump is coming. Maybe the league's figured him out, because that's what we see from rookie years to second seasons. We saw that with CJ Stroud, and we've seen it with a lot of other guys coming up. And so need Bo Nix to just play better. I think they will. I'm hoping that they will for my team's sake. Chuba Hubbard, is one where I was like, okay, I still liked Chuba Hubbard. They paid the man. So it was just more of a question of what's he going to do in the passing game, probably get a little bit more work taken away from him. I think the biggest one, RJ Harvey, I don't know, maybe Sean Payton just hates our fantasy teams. He's kind of getting up in that territory for me. Because what are we doing? Why is Beatty getting work in this backfield? So it could be a thing where he's just, an older coach that says, you gotta earn it. You gotta earn your playing time, all this other stuff. But I am a little bit concerned about RJ Harvey. Obviously not enough. I'm not putting him on my bench or anything yet, but when you have the usage that he had last week, it's concerning. And then I just need my wide receivers to go off. I can't Puka Nacua, Drake London, T. Higgins. That feels good. In hindsight, It's just like, okay, they give me nothing really for this first week. So I just need them to get it back together. That's what I need.
Well, you got the W, which was
Yep.
1 week at a time. Now,
Exactly.
obviously, week 2, you got John Dago coming up. You're playing the underdog when it comes
I
to
know.
projections. His squad is loaded. I mean, you got Jalen Hurts, you got Bucky, Omarion Hampton, CeeDee Lamb, Devonta Smith, Jake Ferguson. In his last flex spot, maybe a Keon Coleman. Like lots of players to be optimistic about on that roster. Who are you concerned about?
Everyone.
I mean, like talk about Keon Coleman. Like, what do you think about his breakout?
Oh my gosh. It was so I think the Keon Coleman breakout is twofold because I actually like Keon Coleman. Like we fell in love with him last season, right? He was the camp darling. He had good, post-game interviews and all that stuff with, the jackets. He's like, I bought it at Macy's. You're like, I love this guy. Perfect. I'm going to draft him all over the place. He had an incredible utilization score. He's also available in an odd amount of leagues. So if you're in, kind of more of a shallow league, take a look at Keon Coleman, but he struggled as a rookie and then he comes in and he was targeted 11 times, 26%, and then had 141 of the air yards. That's 33%, 25.2 fantasy points. So that was great. The other side of it, I will say, is that how many times are we going to see Josh Allen attempt that many passes? So that's the thing you kind of have. It reels you back in and you're like, oh, okay, realistically, how many times are the Bills going to be in a game script like this where, they're just scoring points left and right and all this other stuff. And, the Ravens are letting them do it. So I'm excited about Keon Coleman. Should we expect something like this all the time? No. But on the other side, it would be nice if someone really did emerge as like a really nice alpha receiver. Khalil Shakir we like, but he's never given us like the really big booms week in and week out for fantasy. So it would be fun to finally see that with a guy like Josh Allen, who was the QB1 probably coming into 2025. But yeah, Keon Coleman, I wish he was on my team. Yeah, this team is loaded for like, what are we doing? How did we let this man draft this team? It's just nuts. And then you just hit on, like, he has got Omarion Hampton. We're not worried about Omarion Hampton. CeeDee Lamb went off. You're not worried about Devonta Smith, Jacoby Myers. I mean, our Geno Smith is just dropping dimes over there.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you're asking me who I'm worried about, it's everyone on this team. And everyone loves an underdog story. And so hopefully I'm able to come back on that one.
Love it. Well, obviously, it is, again, it's a stacked league.
Yeah.
Matthew Berry did a breakdown of this league. He picked a winner. He tried to pick you, clearly, in his video.
Yeah,
he
obviously.
wanted to go Kendall Valenzuela, but he, contractual obligations or whatever.
Yeah.
He selected Dave Richard, who's, again, another loaded team. He gave a little shout out to Greg Branos with Coach Speak. He mentioned Stigman Bloom's roster. Lots of loaded teams. What squad are you most aware of out there? Who's the scariest team in this league?
You know what? This is a really good question because I actually had someone pinpointed and I think it was, I love Justin Boone's team. I really like that one. I mean, Jaden Daniels, getting him as your quarterback. You have Saquon Barkley, who I know people were worried about the carries and how much work he had last season going all the way into February, but it's Saquon Barkley. Like, he's still just going to be good. I think James Conner, even splitting time with Trey Benson, is still going to be a good fantasy asset for you. And then AJ Brown, listen, I understand. I've got AJ Brown on my squads. I'm trying not to be worried about it. Emeka Egbuka, though, I think makes up for it. Chigakonkwo was a sleeper tight end for me that I just love to draft late if I wasn't able to get one of the elite guys. And then Jordan Mason, who I think, when we look at the splits and the usage from week 1, it's always this thing that I think the Vikings have always wanted to make sure that Aaron Jones stays healthy. And I think that's why you bring Jordan Mason in. It's a good 1-2 punch. But if Aaron Jones was to go down, Jordan Mason gets this massive workload. And even if he doesn't, it's still a 1A, 1B situation. And then, Tootin on the bench, who I think has a runway for potential there. Trey Benson, he handcuffed. Rashi Rice, he'll get coming off suspension. So I really, really like that team.
Well, I mean, it's Justin Boone. Like he's got a track record of success when it comes to fantasy.
What can we say?
For sure. Now, is there a manager in this league that you want to defeat more than another?
All of them. Every single one. Yeah, I would say every single one. You're all on my radar. I'm 1-0. Check back with me last week with my team. If it falls apart, we are not talking about it. But yeah, it's every single one of them. I want to take them down.
All right. And you want to kick Jake Seeley while he's down? I mean,
No,
again,
Jake,
that was pretty
listen,
good. Okay.
Listen, I think if we run that again, like 9 times out of 10, you get a good enough game from Swift and a good enough game from Justin Jefferson. I really was expecting to come into this podcast and just be like, yeah, I'm 0-1. We bounce back. But here we are. We take what the fantasy gods give us.
I love it. Now, well, obviously, a lot of people are excited about this league. I can't wait to see what happens. It's cool to see the attention on it. As for the 2025 season, though, in your world, what are you doing? Like, what's your schedule like? Obviously, a lot of stuff at Fantasy Life. So exciting.
Yes, a lot of stuff at Fantasy Life. It's crazy. You know the drill by now. It's just one of those things where it's we're live on SiriusXM. I always recommend. That's so fun. I love doing that show with Adam, Fantasy Life from 7 to 9 Pacific time. So we're doing that. I'm on LGTV on Sunday, Tuesdays, and Thursdays. I'm live with Ian Harditz on Mondays, talking through waiver wires. Got my waiver wire article at fantasylife.com. And it's just, we're doing a lot over there. But I always recommend, all of our articles are 100% free. So if you ever want to check out, anyone watching, listening, I just always recommend going to check it out. And especially the utilization suite from Dwayne. He puts so much damn work into that, and he is one of the best in the industry. So if you guys can go and check out the utilization report, the utilization suite of tools, it really does help you stay a few steps ahead of all your league mates when you can.
Exciting. Yeah, obviously great stuff at Fantasy Life. As always, just continue to just crank it out. You guys are doing such a great job over there.
Thank you.
Now, I am in a guillotine league with you that Sam Holt put together just recently. Last minute, I'm excited. You drafted JSN. I was kind of hoping to get that. That hurt, but obviously JSN, like what a day he had the other day. And it's a problem for the Seahawks because again, they don't everyone else, it seems, but special to see a great player like that and excited to compete with you in guillotine.
Yeah, I can't. Come on. If I know that I'm drafting with you, I know I have to get my Seahawks early and often. There's no chance that I was going to leave it up to you being able to get JSN out of that league. So that's a fun one too. Oh my God. Those are to have to go from like just regular, redraft fantasy and then switch your mind over to guillotine leagues is so insane because now we've got, Jamar Chase on waivers this week and people are like, should I bid everything that I own in my house and my kids to like get Jamar Chase? And it's like, I don't know how much you should bid or how much you need him. It's just crazy.
And that's the guillotine. I mean, guillotine is, if you haven't played guillotine, it is one of the most special experiences in fantasy. It's so intense. The waiver wire is just a completely different animal. Yeah. Highly recommended.
So much. Guillotineleagues.com. Go check it out. It's fun.
Love it. Love it. Well, hopefully for us this fall, we'll be celebrating Seahawks victories and a Seattle Mariners playoff run, maybe.
That for sure. I'll meet you there, right? I don't go to wild card game. I'm not going to do wild card games. I just don't. I don't know. I don't know about you. I don't count those. No. But I'll meet you there. Hopefully.
Sounds good.
They just have to get it together. I don't know what they're doing, but come on. We'll meet there. Tough. We'll meet there and we'll post pictures from it.
Sounds great. I love it. Always a pleasure, Kendall. So much fun. Thank you so much for coming on.
Of course. No, of course. Thank you so much for having me. We'll keep in touch throughout the season. Keep looking at what this stacked league looks like. It's going to be awesome.
Sounds great.
Thank you for listening to the Fantasy Football Unlimited podcast. Until next time. Be sure to follow and subscribe to all of FFU's social media accounts for